Hello, welcome back. So I first want to start a lesson with sentence structure. So I'm just going to briefly review everything that you kind of probably already know about sentence structure. I'm also going to post a slideshow, but if you want me to walk you through it, this is the video for you. If you want to skip to the next part with the self-selected novel, that's going to be in the second half of this video. All right. So we are going to start with some sentence structure. So for sentence structure, there's essentially 4 types of sentences that you guys are going to encounter. And I just want to make sure that we have these on lock and key as we really start this heavy writing process this summer. So first, we're going to start out with a simple sentence. And it's just that. It's simple. It has one independent clause, and that's it. Here's kind of like the general structure. You're going to have a subject, so person, place, thing, or idea. A verb, so they got to do something. This can also be a linking verb, which would be like to be or anything that is not specifically an action. And then a complete thought. So you need to make sure that your sentence can stand alone and whoever reads it understands what you're saying. So like, what is an independent clause? An independent clause is, I went to the store yesterday. So we have our subject, I, went is the verb, and then to the store yesterday is a complete thought. So we have the subject, verb, and a complete thought. The dependent clause is to get milk. So if I were to say to get milk on its own with no question that was being asked of me or nothing else in front of it or after it, it wouldn't really make sense by itself. So that's why this is an independent clause, can stand alone as a sentence. Dependent cannot. So think about it. Independent can stand alone as a person, doesn't need anybody else. Dependent means you need somebody else to rely on. All right, so my example of a simple sentence. I prepared for takeoff. So again, the subject I, and then prepared is my verb. I prepared for takeoff stands alone. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build off on our sentences so that you can kind of see how we can take a simple sentence and make it into a longer thought altogether. So next we have compound sentences, which is essentially 2 simple sentences joined, or more than one independent clause. So a sentence with 2 or more independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction. What's a coordinating conjunction? That's a great question. It's fanboys, so for and nor, but or, yet, or so. So think about it that way. Coordinating conjunctions are fanboys. So here's my compound sentence. I prepared for takeoff. If you look at just this first part where my piece is, that was the first independent clause that I used in my simple sentence. Then I added a coordinating conjunction and then another independent clause. So the spaceship was out of fuel. So I could say, I prepared for takeoff, period, and get rid of this, and then the spaceship was out of fuel, period. And those would make sense as 2 separate sentences. However, I joined them together with a comma and a coordinating conjunction. Next, we have complex sentences, which kind of have a similar format where it's one dependent, so one part that cannot stand alone, and then it's paired with a independent clause and a subordinating conjunction. So on this slide, I have what a subordinating conjunction is. So as, because, although, since, before, when, etc. As long as you have one of these in there, along with this formula, you're going to have a complex sentence. So, since the spaceship was out of fuel, we could not take off. So, if you take a look here, I had the spaceship was out of fuel as a sentence by itself. But because I added this word since before it, if I just say since the spaceship was out of fuel and nothing else after it, it wouldn't make sense by itself. So this is the dependent clause right here. And then we have we could not take off, and that stands alone by itself. So the dependent clause was since the spaceship was out of fuel. Independent clause is we could not take off. Subordinating conjunction was since. Then we have a compound complex sentence. This has one dependent clause And you should really never have more than one dependent clause in a sentence. And then 2 or more independent clauses joined by a coordinating and a subordinating conjunction. So, although the spaceship was out of fuel and the captain couldn't find any on site, we resolved to achieve a successful takeoff. So, let's break this down. Although the spaceship had run out of fuel, this is my dependent clause here. Oops. And is the coordinating conjunction. The captain couldn't find any on site. That could stand alone as a sentence on its own. We resolved to achieve a successful takeoff. That could also stand alone. So then we have our 2 independent clauses, our dependent clause, a coordinating conjunction, and a subordinating conjunction. If you use that formula, kind of like you would in math, you'll be just fine. All right, so your first assignment for this week is to complete a worksheet over the sentence types. And then you will write a short narrative this week that's going to be due on Friday. And I'll post the directions for that on Schoology as well. Again, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. But now I'm going to talk about the self-selected assignment. Now it's time to dive into what the expectations are for the self-selected novel that you guys are going to read this summer. All right, so I wanted to talk about some self-selected books and also kind of what to expect moving forward. So this is not going to be due until the middle of July, but I want you guys to have a book selected this week so that you have a chance to get it, obtain it, or really start to read it this next month. So let's first talk about what you need for the book. So first, you need a book that's over 200 pages. You can find how many pages it is on Goodreads.com. You need to make sure that the level of reading is between 9th and 12th grade. You can check this on Scholastic.com. Make sure it's school appropriate. Use common sense with this one. I trust you guys. Just make sure it's nothing that's going to be too crazy. You have it picked by June 5th. There's going to be a discussion board that you'll see where you'll be able to place the book that you would like to read on there. Make sure that this is a book you have not read before. I cannot stress this enough. There are literally millions of books out there. Find a new one. You can do it. I will help you. And then just make sure it's approved by me. When you guys post it on the discussion post, I'll say like this is good or find a different one or whatever, and we'll just go from there. All right, so what will we do with this once we are done? At the end, you will write a literary analysis over the book by selecting a theme from the novel and arguing over it. This will be explained more in the coming weeks, but here's a couple ways that you can prepare for this without fully knowing what it's at. Highlight quotes. Mark where you find them and like why they are important. Some might call this annotating. I'm obviously not going to check your annotations, but don't wait until after you've read the book to try to remember where important things happened or funny quotes happened, because you're going to need to use quotes from the book to support this. You could also, write them down. Keep notes on important topics or things brought up. So that at the end, again, you're not just like, well, I read that book 3 weeks ago. I don't remember what happened. Try to take notes or highlight stuff so that you can keep moving forward. So this is a good quote by Dr. Seuss. The more that you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you will go. All right, so let's talk about picking a book. And I put that this is right for you. Not every book that I read is going to be something that interests you and vice versa. So let me talk about a couple of books that I recommend to teenagers. The first and probably most important is The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. If you have not read this book, stop everything you're doing and read this book. I cannot say enough great things about it. I love it. It obviously has some cuss words and it goes over a pretty sensitive subject, but I really, really enjoyed this book. I've had students read it in the past and they always come back saying that it's one of their favorites. The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I have actually not read this book, but it comes highly recommended by every young adult literature reader. It comes from the fantasy series, and I have the summary right here, but this again, another great book. Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen McManus. This is a mystery-like book. I really liked it because I kind of did not expect the ending. I was definitely like, when I was comparing my characters, I didn't see who it would be at the end. So if you are somebody that likes mysteries like that, this is a book for you. Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. This is, again, one of those other books that I really recommend if you are a fantasy reader. If you have not read this book and you like fantasies, stop what you're doing. This is the book for you. And then for anybody that really loves technology or gaming or the future or whatever, this is going to be a really great book for you because it involves playing video games, trying to figure out puzzles, and also talking about the 1980s heavily. So I really recommend this book. I always reread it every once in a while just because I really like it. So I didn't include a lot of books on here because, again, not every book I like is going to be the same as books you like. So if you're struggling to think of a book, meet with me on Wednesday and I'll discuss some books, genres, or ideas that might intrigue you. The goal is to find a book that you love. Because in high school, I really struggled with that. And the whole point is that you find a book that you like, and then from there, it'll make you want to read more. That's it. Okay, so to wrap up, I know you guys are probably like, we have to read another book this summer. But let me just show you really quick how many books I plan to read this summer. This is obviously not all of them. Some of them are actually at the library waiting for me to pick them up. But I am going to the beach this summer, so I always like to bring beach reads. Actually, one of them I've already read before, but they're light, they're easy, and I can usually get through one or so in a day. Every once in a while, I like to throw in an English lit book from my university days. So I'm going to try to read Wuthering Heights this summer again. The Shack, which is highly recommended by a lot of my friends. Life of Pi, because I've actually never read this book. Wicked. I love the musical The Wicked. Just Wicked. So I'm kind of hoping this is something like that. I'm actually have no idea or expectations of what to see when I get into this. Outlander. I've never watched the TV show, but before I watch the TV show or read a book or watch a movie or a TV show, I always like to read the book first. So I'm going to read Outlander. Oh, my books are going to fall. And then this is an author that's been recommended to me for a while. I'm probably going to also take this one to the beach, but it's called The Perfect Couple. Turtles All the Way Down. I actually have 2 John Green books because I've never read them. But once again, I like to kind of stay up to date, well, a little beyond the date, but of what you guys are reading. So I'm going to read some John Green. I've been on a vampire kick recently, especially because I'm excited for the new Twilight book to come out. So I'm going to read Vampire Academy. Another Erin Hildebrand book. This one's called The Identicals. Sorry. And then lastly, and this is probably one I'm not super excited about because I don't like romantic, sappy, really sad novels. I'm going to read The Time Traveler's Wife. I also have a couple young adult fantasy books that I'm going to read. I'm going to read The Cruel Prince and The Six of Crows and The Court of Thorns and Roses, I believe it is. And those are at the library waiting for me to pick them up here in the next week. So those are just some of the books I'm reading. I literally have tons and tons and tons of books that I hope to get through, especially because, I'm going to be inside a lot this summer. So here's to reading a bunch. And if you guys didn't already get the grasp, I really want to help you guys pick a book that you are interested in reading. So just let me know what you are interested in, genre, topic, whatever, and I'll help you. If I can't think of one, I will ask a librarian to help me. So thank you.